Good morning, everybody listening into this interview, and good morning to Therese Log Bergjord, who we have here from Skretting. Congratulations is the first thing I need to say to you. Therese is our IntraFish 2020 Person of the Year, very well deserved. And it's sort of a milestone because in all the years we've been doing it, it has never been given to a feed industry executive, and two, it has never been given to a woman. So this is really sort of a triple milestone. So triple congratulations to you, Therese.
Well, triple thank you to you, Rachel. I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. So we want to find out a bit more about you today. So let's start with how you came to be the managing director of Skretting. What's been your career path?
Well, it's been a while now since I started working, but I've been to a couple of different industries. I was first 16 years in oil and gas in ConocoPhillips, and I was then changed over to aquaculture, where I was in 7 years with Movi. Well, it was named Panfish at the time. It was a turnaround operation of a stressed salmon farming company. When that job was more or less done, I was a couple of years in the feed business with Skretting. But I wanted to explore also other industries, so I changed to Compass Group. It's a food service company where I got my first job as a managing director. So I headed up Norway and then the Nordic region, learned a lot from that before Knut Nesse, who was actually the boss when I left Skretting in the first place, called me one day and asked if I wanted to come back to the industry, because he had created this aquaculture division of Nutreco, and I needed no time to think. I just thought that was perfect, and it was actually.
Obviously, the experiences you had in Movi and in Skretting beforehand, I suppose they brought obvious contributions to your position now. But what can you say about your roles within Compass Group and in the oil and gas industry? What did they give to you that you sort of can now employ in your current position?
Yes, the oil industry is very mature industry, and it's very professional, highly process oriented. You learn what is proper, what is safe, what is good, what is the right thing, etc. So you learn to work with many people and how to make them come together, because every single person perhaps have a bit of a more smaller responsibility. So you depend on people working together to get to an end result in a very large degree. Whilst in the service industry, we were many people, and improvements was if you could make small steps of improvement along the process, they made a big difference. So I had invaluable experiences in me being into different industries, not only aquaculture. So to me, it's been a very, very good.
One of the reasons we selected you for our Person of the Year this year has been your sort of willingness to stand up and be very open about the sustainability challenges that the feed sector and the broader aquaculture industry are facing. And you've been very open about what needs to be done, and also where the industry is sort of failing to meet expectations and targets that it should be meeting. Why do you think that's important, and why have you chosen to be that voice?
Chosen to be that voice. I think that when you look at when you go below the surface on the whole sustainability topic, it becomes very fast, very complex, and you realize that hey, if we don't at least first start talking and then doing things together as an industry, we will get only to limited progress. So I came to the feed industry, and I realized that 90%, 95% of our footprint comes through the raw materials that we use in the feeds. And I also see that when we talk about our business is sustainable, sustainable is just a word. It doesn't mean too much before you actually put facts into the underlying business you do, and that is a big challenge. And I just want to play my little role here and make that fact come out in the open, and also let's work together to solve it. And it's not a quick fix. There's no magic powder here. It's all the small things that matters at the end, and that's also what motivates me. There is so many people that wants to play a part, and let's just try to help them do their thing the best way possible.
I mean, on that subject, Skretting has been sort of a first mover in several areas that are related, as you say, to those sort of raw materials that are very much the big part of the footprint of the aquaculture industry. And obviously, you've had partnerships with Atlantic Sapphire, with recirculating system feed. You've also partnered with several alternatives providers. Which of those things has been most important, do you think? Which for you, which is the thing that you're sort of most proud of and see as the most important step?
Well, that's a tricky. No, it's not a tricky question, but it's given an answer that you wouldn't necessarily expect, because it is the footprint comes from the raw materials, and we need, if the industry is going to grow over the next, let's say, 50 years, of course we are going to grow, we need a tremendous amount of more raw materials to feed the animal that we farm. And where do these raw materials comes from? We have decided to look, for instance, on the novel raw materials. We have decided in our roadmap 2025 to expand, that is our sustainability roadmap, to expand on the usage of raw material, micro raw materials, but that is quite challenging to find those who can push out other macro ingredients out of the recipes of the feed. So they are fantastic raw materials, but so far they have been too expensive to scale up big time. But we have to start somewhere. When it comes to so we are working, but I must admit we have not found the sort of the perfect raw material yet that can answer to all those responses. But we have learned tremendously much around through this journey. Just in my last 3 years, the team has worked on novel raw materials, several startup companies. Someone is on the verge of scaling up, etc. So we are working with them, and we are going to try to find those mixes of raw materials that we can use as a big ingredients going forward. When it comes to land-based salmon, we've been that is more also with our owners and Nutreco, that how can we support the industry growing, because it has been a very slow growth in salmon industry over the last years, and it remains like a flat, relatively flat growth industry. So I believe that we need to look elsewhere. Either you go out in the open waters in the ocean, or you need to go on land. And Nutreco has chosen to be part of fueling that growth. How can we enable the industry to grow through new technology farming, like the land-based salmon farming? And then comes the solutions. Feed. I think feed and water are by far the most important input factors into the RAS facility. So of course we need to make an exceptionally detailed understanding on how does the feed impact those systems to be able to keep the growth, keep the business going for our customers, and also how can we help them becoming even more sustainable, because we do play a big part.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously Skretting's not alone in sort of investing in these novel ingredients and these different ways of farming. But it does strike me that you and Skretting have sort of been particularly big investors in research and development and in finding these new sources. And within that, you're then investing, as you say, in sort of startup companies that some might say is quite a risky investment. Do you consider yourself a risk taker?
No, and we have some corporate venture capital in Nutreco. I must say it's we have an investment arm in Nutreco that does these investments. I sit on that leadership board, so we discuss it always together. And we are not the big risk takers, but we are willing to spend where we believe in industries that and companies and startups where we think they can make a difference from a raw material standpoint. But of course, we believe it will be good investments at the end of the day. We are not. We are a business organization, so we are looking for the good prospects. And to find the good prospects, we use our tremendous amount of R&D that we have inside the company now to select. So,
yeah. And I mean, following on from that point, I suppose, you know, you're saying you're not risk takers. Obviously, it's sort of a measured risk, I guess. But you've also done quite a lot of work in the African aquaculture industry. You've partnered with World Fish and other organisations there. And that work seems to be, well, it's very important, I guess, for the aquaculture sector that someone is there doing that. But what are the big challenges in the African aquaculture industry as you see it at the moment, and what are you undertaking to sort of change things there?
Yeah, African aquaculture, we are actually we have a business in Egypt and in Nigeria. We have in Zambia aquaculture business, and it's what I learned is that it's not a linear development. It's depending on much more depending on nature to be successful. You know, it's the feed is one thing, the water quality, the amount of water that is available, and the knowledge of the farmers around us, the size of it all, the lack of industrialization to a large degree. Its challenges are so completely different from what we see in the salmon industry. So we came in first. Of course, I came late, and our teams have been there for long. But we came in and thought that we could apply the salmon model, and we say, hey, that will not work. We will need to work differently with in these countries. So I'm proud of what we are doing in Africa. We're setting up a new factory in a new mill in Nigeria, and we believe that is a very good place to be, because if you look at the population development, Nigeria will grow in population from 200 million people today to 700 million by the end of the century. So, I mean, it's scary in many ways, but it's also a very attractive in other ways. It just will take a lot more time.
Do you think the African continent will be a big part of aquaculture's sort of future home? And then more largely, where do you see the sort of key regions for growth going forward?
I think that I cling on to the regions. There are two things, you know. You should be able to produce aquaculture. That is, you know, like the salmonid world and the cold waters. The consumers will come where the population growth is, and it will remain where there are people. So looking at Africa, no doubt that the population growth in Africa towards, you know, in 50 to 100 years from now will be in Africa. But until then, Asia and Asia will also be an engine, we believe.
Of course.
Where growth will come.
Yeah. Just shifting the conversation slightly, but sort of on the theme of people, which you've already mentioned, sort of teamwork is very much a part of your ethic, and you see it as very important. You've spoken out quite a lot on the need for diversity in the industry. That's always been sort of part of your mantra, I think, in interviews, that we need more diverse workforce in the seafood industry. Why do you think that is necessary, and what can the industry do to get there?
Yeah, diversity is a lot more than men and women. But to start, we have to start somewhere. So we start with encouraging and working on the female talents to get them up. We need to see them. We need to help them succeed, and we need to put them in places where they don't necessarily want to be themselves to start with, because the dynamics in a team, in a leadership team, in an operating company changes completely when you have a diverse group of people there. And it goes without saying, we cannot continue with 18% females in Skretting globally. We have to improve that over time. So we are taking special care of our female talents across the world. We're hiring females very cautiously, and we are trying to help them, encourage them to take on larger roles. I'm not going to be without my male colleagues, because they are doing a fantastic job as well.
Of course,
compliment. We have to step up, Rachel. It's the only way that we can get there, is to push a bit harder, push a lot harder to get there.
Absolutely. You mentioned your male colleagues. Who are your biggest champions? Who have been there through your moments of doubt and always sort of supported you in your role these last few years?
I have my one big advisor, as I call him, and he hired me into the seafood industry when I left the oil industry, and he sort of helped me when I needed advice, and he also put me on my first director position. So that must be him, Atle Eide. He's been out in private equity for a while now, but we stayed in touch over the years, and he's yes, I have to say that he's my mentor.
And that's important to have, because we all have moments of doubt in our roles, particularly when you're in an important leadership role. I think sometimes there's some things that probably keep you up at night. What are those things, and what have been your sort of biggest doubts that you've had as you've sort of taken this path?
No, I haven't lost sleep, and I haven't had doubts since I take. When I have a problem, I guess that's where you're going, Rachel. When I have a problem that I have no clue how to address, I mobilize the people around me. We go into a meeting room, and we spend a few hours there, and we draw on the boards. We do all the old-fashioned things, and we just sit down and think and use the brains around the table to find the best solution. And that is what has worked for me, because the more I learn, the less I know, so to say. So I use the people around me when I'm out there without knowing what to do.
And that's sort of, I mean, one of my questions was going to be, what is your management style? And that sort of gives me a little bit of an insight into how you manage. It's clearly very much sort of a team at Skretting. But what else sort of comes into your management style? What would people around you say are your sort of key attributes in terms of management?
Yeah, I think I've been a leader now since I was 25, and I'm 55, so it's 30 years. So you learn a lot on how to manage people over those years. But I think I'm generally happy. That helps. I'm try to be calm when it's really busy around us, and I mobilize people. So I involve. I'm very open. I talk to my team about everything that is going on. So I have this, I believe that people really like to be involved in what's going on in the company they work for. And I'm generally open, and I have never regretted that once, not even once.
That's incredible. What's your best quality? I mean, maybe you just told me what your best quality was. Maybe it's openness. But is there anything else that you sort of you is precious to you in your sort of personality?
I think I work well with people. I think that is my biggest strength. I'm not exceptionally smart. I'm not exceptionally anything, but I have this thing that I really like to work with people. I talk to them. I try to connect, and we do things together, so to say. So, and then that is perhaps. But you should also ask someone else about that. I ask Sophie.
We'll do a survey afterwards.
Huh? Yeah,
we'll do a survey afterwards. Multiple choice. what is your worst quality? Is there anything that you sort of try and work to improve in yourself that you sort of see as a fault in your sort of professional life?
Worst quality, I don't know.
That's a hard question.
I don't know. I maybe no, I don't know if I have a worst. That's maybe I'm a bit then I sound a bit boring, because I don't know if I'm extreme in anything. No. No, I don't.
Maybe just moderation. Yeah. Maybe you moderate things like that in your personality. That's enough to say that. That's that's insightful. On that, I don't mean to connect this question with the last one, but when will you know that it's time to retire?
Yeah, I asked once a very good colleague I had in the oil industry about that. He had a high position in the large Norwegian state-oil company, and so when do you know when you met your level of incompetency? You know, and so that it's easy, is that you just walk into a room and a huge rock falls on your head, and then you know it. So the point was that he really said that you have no doubt when you're out there.
You don't have to think about it.
It just happens. It would be, I would hope I could go all full speed ahead until it suddenly is time to retire. So
until the rock falls.
Until the rock falls, then I will. You don't have to carry me out. I promise you that. Someone will come and tell me, and I will go willingly.
On that note, I think that's probably as good a note to end on as any. That's smart advice for all of us. Look out for that falling rock. But thank you so much, Therese, and congratulations again. It's a very, very well deserved Person of the Year award, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks you very much, Rachel.